Okay, hello, and welcome to As Much as I Can Teach You While My Toddler is Sleeping Until a Better Name is found. uh, Today, and by the way, I'm going to have a better microphone in the future. This current one is not good. The better microphone is in the room where the toddler is sleeping, and so I dare not tread there. But we're going to start working on the front walk cycle for this character. And I'll be drawing essentially the full character first, just to make sure I have the proportions looking correctly so I can swap back and forth between the side and the front and make sure that everything looks the way it's supposed to look. So I'll be going into that here. And how I've set this up is I've taken the side view of the character and I've turned down the opacity down the layer. So this thing right here, slider right here, changes the opacity of the layer so it makes it more transparent. So I'm just going to take that and draw the character walking forwards. Now, since this is a top-down game, I'm going to be shifting things kind of down a little bit. So the nose is going to actually not be just level with the nose. It's going to be a little lower like that. And basically I'll be starting with details. It's actually a terrible idea. So, boy, this is laggy. Bad habits, I often start with details and then have to erase it because it's really best to start with big shapes. I don't think this brush is working out for me, because Krita is slowing down quite a bit. Let's try this one. Okay, that's better. So, certain thing to think about when you're doing a rotation of the character is to think about not the character in terms of lines or two-dimensional shapes, but in terms of mass through three-dimensional shapes. So the head here is, I should just be trying to draw the same shape as it is on the side. Hold on. So I shouldn't be seeking to draw, a similar shape or just trying to draw a two-dimensional shape, but thinking about the three-dimensionality of the character, and then it will look correct. So think about the fact that the character's head is essentially kind of a sphere around like this, and that it has kind of a donut sort of shape down here, kind of a flattened oval. Like if you put a circle in the center, it'd be kind of a donut. So when you think about it in terms of three-dimensional shape, it really helps get everything looking correct. And just hopefully fast and loose is the best way to kind of get these going correctly. Oh, let me show you something created here for shapes that are symmetrical. So this right up here this little line you can set. What this does is it duplicates whatever you're drawing. Come on. Sometimes there are weird things. It duplicates whatever you're drawing on the other side of the canvas, mirrored across this line. So that's kind of useful for anything that's going to be symmetrical, because sometimes with symmetrical objects, just being hand drawn, they can end up being really non-symmetrical, and once you've drawn it, it can look okay until you realize that the whole thing is completely crooked and awful. So that's a handy tool. You can do it vertically or horizontally. Okay. Why is this doing this? Krita can sometimes be a little bit of a buggy program, but it is free, which is great. But yeah, I've got a magnifying glass stuck over my brush here for no reason. One thing you do have to worry about with this mirroring tool here, this kind of thing that draws duplicates, is parts of the character that are actually not supposed to be mirrored. So the eyes, for instance, generally look the same. They're not a mirror match of each other because light comes from the same place. So if I were to create a, what in the world? A shine on the eye would be on the wrong side on this eye. So you want to be careful to be aware of that if you're doing something that's symmetrical. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to restart Krita because it is throwing me off. Krita is not a perfect program, but it's open source, does a lot of things well, and it's free. So you can decide if you want to use it or not. I'm still figuring out what the heck I'm doing with that. Okay. Now you might be tempted to start filling in colors at this point, but certainly don't do that, because the clearer and more simple you can keep the character, the easier it is going to be for you to see what's wrong with your walk cycle or whatever you're doing. So this image that we have in the background, the side image, is one of our contact images. And if you remember, that's the point that the foot going forward is contacting the ground for the first time. So we're going to start drawing the contact images for this animation in once we've done this sketch, just to make sure all the proportions are correct. Or you use the sketch as kind of a template for our animation. Yeah. it's important, and it's important when you're drawing to back out every once in a while and just look at the whole, because it can be easy to just kind of get really close and do kind of detailed, close work, and then you back out and it looks all wrong because you haven't looked at it from a ways out for a while. So be sure to just zoom out every once in a while. I've got zoom mapped to Command E and Command R on my computer, just so it can be easily accessible. I think this looks weird. It looks a little off to the side, so I'm going to try to make it more three-dimensional and still make it look right. It's going to be tricky. Might look at some reference for this, because this angle that the foot is going to be at is kind of tricky to make look right. So right now I'm just kind of keeping it loose, experimenting and trying to make something that looks correct to me. So that is actually weird. Still weird, maybe. Try delineate the kind of bottom of the foot here. And as you can see, this is very much just a process, a lot of times, at least for people with my skill level, of elimination and experimentation, just figuring out, what's going on. This maybe looks a little short, so maybe I'll do that. Still looks like it's skewing off to the side. Which is somewhat what our feet do when we walk, depending on how we walk. But it doesn't look quite right in this case, but then that looks... I'm gonna try something else. Nope. All right. So that leg's back. I need to think about what's going on here. So sometimes with a really weird, something that I'm not quite getting, this is probably angled up too much. That might be the problem. I will pull out some reference. There's not a lot of great reference for this vantage point that I've been able to find, but if I made this shorter and whiter. Oop. I apologize that my older daughter was standing on the end of her bed and crashed into a pile of boxes. So she was using to create a house. Anyway, it's fun times. these sorts of things will happen with this show because I am a dad. And I, unlike many people who do not have children, there is much goings on around here. That still looks weird. Don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, reference time. Reference time. Oops. So, we're going to look at images from Zelda Minish Cap, which has some gorgeous pixel art. Which obviously the pixel art piece does not apply to this, but the walk cycle very much does. Maybe. I keep spinning it around because my hotkeys for zooming in are spin around on this one. So if we look at this pixel art, and obviously it's a bit different, but you can see kind of the top of the foot is consistent here. The darker red back here where it's shadowed by Link's body, his clothes. And then you have the tip of the shoe, which is a bright red, and that's consistent from the side to the front here. So maybe instead of showing the bottom of, yeah, I shouldn't show the bottom of the foot because the angle is not right. So I should definitely show the top of the foot, and it will look a lot better. That helps. So what I'm going to do, the body here, and then going to go build this leg out and down. And we are going to make the foot slightly bigger at the end because it's maybe slightly angled. Because it is in the original image here, heading up towards the camera, right? It's angled up. So we have to just make that look right. But I think with enough practice, with enough messing around with this, I can make it look correct. That's starting to feel good. As something to remember when you're animating, when people walk, when anything walks, at least when humans walk, not anything, but when humans walk, they lead with the heel of their foot. So, as you can see on this other image, the heel down here is what hits first, and the foot is kind of trailing behind that. So, it's important to remember. We're not going to be able to convey that very much from this perspective, I don't think, because it's weird, but that feels so much better. Alright, that looks good. We might just kind of have the body flow into the leg a little bit, or should I keep it separate? I'll keep it separate for now. Alright, and then we'll just sketch on the arms because it's just the initial sketch. And again, it's important to think of the arms in terms of three-dimensionality, right? So you might be tempted to draw the arm, you know, out like this or something because it's bent. But just remember the side view here. This elbow is going back in space. We're looking at the side view. This elbow is going back in space and the hand is coming forward. So anything that goes kind of forward towards the camera. Of course, drawing 101 gets bigger. So we'll want to do that. And it's also going down slightly in this perspective because we're top down. I think I've got too much body on this rabbit, actually. I think the head needs to move down to get that perspective a little better. So, smoosh the rabbit. Too much, obviously. Not enough. That feels about right, I think. Erase the extra bits here. Alright, now we're gonna just, obviously we have one arm. The other arm is going to be barely visible. Alright, so now we're going to turn this layer back to full opacity, and we're just going to toggle between the two to try to catch problems. In fact, I'm just going to do that with the animation editor, I think. So, got a frame. Nope. Incorrect. Thank you for trying. So one trick, if you want to clear, well, you know what? I'm just going to go like this. Boom. That's easiest. So to change that layer. Changes all the layers. Messed everything up. So we're going to toggle between the two frames here. Okay. So a trick if you want to just create a blank frame that's white is just to select an empty space and then press delete. It makes a blank frame like that. Then we're going to go to the front here, turn that on, and we are going to copy the frame here so we have it in place, and then we're just going to delete the frame from that. So we switch back and forth. You can already see some problems here. We're going to turn the frame rate down to like really slow. Start 1, 0, end 1. Just go like this. So the head moving down was actually a bad plan. The ears, not terrible. The head moving down actually gives the impression of the head shrinking. So even though that's might be technically correct, it's actually looks weird. So we're gonna try to keep the head in the same place as they move around. The body, body's not looking bad. The arm, the hand is too big on the arm. The leg is way too small, I think. Anyway, that's something to start with. So we're going to stop. Now we've got the animation set up so we can compare the two anytime we want to, which is nice. But we are going to turn on, actually, instead of having the layer with the opacity down, we are going to turn on onion skins. So click. No. Actually, that's not going to work, is it? No, it's not. Forget onion skins. I don't know the best way to do this, but I'm just going to duplicate a layer. Nope. Duplicate this layer. And then go to the second frame here. This turn down the opacity again. I don't know, there's probably a better way to do that, but now I'm going to adjust the front view here. So important for if you haven't done digital drawing or painting before is or the whole head's, oh, you know what? Hold on. Hold the horses. We can probably just take the whole character and just go up like that. Now we see that something's really weird wrong here, but the ears are now too big because this foreground ear here should be getting shorter as it moves forward, as it changes perspective, because on the side view here, this ear is closer to the camera, this ear is further away, so this one appears to be a lot shorter. But when it rotates around, if you can imagine an axis going through the middle of the rabbit's head, as it rotates around, this ear is going to get smaller and this ear is going to get bigger. As you can see on the front, this ear doesn't get any shorter at all. So that means that if we're rotating around the axis through the middle of the rabbit's head, that the ears are too large. So we're going to smoosh them down a little bit. I'm just going to draw a selection thingamabob around the ears so I don't affect the head. And then I'm going to change their shape with this tool. This is a transform layer or selection tool, which I occasionally use. So we're just going to smoosh them down so that the ear in the back is getting taller, the ear in the front is getting shorter about the same rate. Now they're looking a little fat. So I'm going to hold down Alt to resize them towards the middle. And we're just going to give them a little bit of a smoosh that way. Press Enter. Those ears are a lot more proportional now. The head is hopefully good. We'll look at the animation here in a second. The eyes are obviously not the same, so I'm going to, what I've got is like a white eye. And this is all going to change as we actually paint the characters, but the more consistency you have in the initial sketch, the better you'll be able to tell if it's right or not. Because if you have sketch lines of, I pressed the button. Okay. If you have sketch lines everywhere and you make a mess of it, it can kind of distract from, make it harder to find any structural problems you have with the animal. So although I start off sketchy because you want to work quickly and to get a better result, you still want to slow down and clean it up at some point. Now, actually this sticks out from the head, that kind of fluff there, and I think perhaps the head needs to be a little less round from the front here, and a little more fluffy at the bottom. Fluffy, fluffy, fluffy rabbits. So the head is a little more like a sort of a pill shape, I guess. A little bit flat one way, round the other way. We'll see if that looks right or not. And since I have no idea if it looks right or not, I'll just give it a try and we will look at the animation and see what seems out of place. And that's the process. The mouth, I think, is either going to disappear. No, I guess it's good here, right? I think so. The belly. Getting the perspective on this character is going to be interesting, an interesting challenge, because doing it right and making it, like drawing it correctly and making it look correct are kind of two different things, this perspective, because a lot of times you have to make the character actually technically wrong as far as perspective goes, but to make it look right. It's a very pot-bellied little rabbit. Here, just redraw the arm. So there's a lot of drawing in animating this type of way, obviously, lots of drawing. So I highly suggest taking some drawing classes or online course or something to get yourself drawing, although drawing with other people is fantastic, so I highly recommend it. Just as far as pushing your comfort zone and stuff. Oops, I've drawn that arm behind the body, which is a problem, and totally wrong spot. It's actually going to be down here. I took drawing classes in college, and it was fantastic just because it forced me, essentially it forced me to draw things that I wouldn't otherwise draw, like from life, such, so that's good. Let me think about this forearm. So this forearm goes back, maybe out like that, will look better, and then the arm, the upper arm goes back like that. I think something like that will remove this seam a little bit. And obviously I'm not the most fantastic drawing person ever, but I know enough to get the thing done, and I continue to try to improve, etc. I think we might just put a circle around that possibly, so it looks like a separate piece from the arm. We'll see if that's right or not. Like game development, creating a character is a lot of iteration. So this arm, it's gonna be weird. It's mostly gonna be hidden kind of behind the body. Let's look at our reference again, shall we? Wonder what, I think the back arm might just disappear in the Zelda reference. Reference is helpful because then you can learn from, rotate again, hooray! Learn from people who've figured it all out in the past. Let's see. So when the arm's completely back, you kind of see the top of the top of the shoulder. That's interesting. That makes sense. So the arm disappears kind of behind the shoulder. That's helpful. See, I was gonna draw still the hand in front of the arm, but no, this is better. Haha! Awesome. So the shoulder kind of swings back like that. And that's so good. Still don't know about that arm, and this leg does not look right to me. Still, I'm going to try to do something else, which is stretch it around until it looks right, which obviously is going to not, I mean, it's going to look pixelated and terrible, but it sometimes helps if you find yourself drawing things over and over again and not getting it right each time. So that looks, I think we're also going to angle it a little more. It helps to just be able to move things around and quickly see if it looks right or not. That is actually looking better. No. The rabbit's body does not get covered up by its leg when it's a humanoid and running, but it does kind of deform a little bit. Like, you can imagine the belly getting a little pushed up by the the leg coming up like this. We also want to, it's a little bit flat on this side, right? And a little more of a knee. Should we have, no, definitely not that. Having a little bit of shadow there helps it read like it's under the knee and under the body of the rabbit. So having a little shadow there might be helpful. It's starting to get there. It's far from perfect. This foot back here now looks odd to me. I feel like there should be maybe a little bit more of the knee showing, right? That should just be in shadow. Then we need to have the torso come down a little more. No. 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 Okay, let's hide this layer. This is looking awfully strange to me still. Let's animate it and see what. Okay, so the leg coming forward looks a wee bit skinny. The arm, the shoulder and the arm moves up weirdly. The back leg should probably all be in shadow. The ears obviously gaining more detail, which is a problem. The eyes get smaller, so we need to have bigger eyes. We're gonna stop that. We are just going to take the eyes and make them a little bigger. Boom. Animate it to see. I guess knees, watch out. The eyes are still, they move down, don't they? Okay, so what we're gonna do here, wrong tool, wrong tool. Okay, is put a little bit of that puffiness from the cheek coming up and pressing against the eye a little bit there. We gotta turn the frame rate down, and that's starting to look correct. A little more correct. The eyebrow kind of gets smaller, but it's not a huge deal right now because we're not looking at details. Speaking of details, I'm going to get rid of the inside of the ears here, just so we can have a better, again, the fewer details the better. I'm not really fantastic at following my own advice all the time, because it's hard not to, want to jump into details, but your animation, your drawing, everything will be better if you start with the general shapes and move into the specific. Nose moves down too much. Oh wait, what am I doing? Just gonna. You can also use your arrow keys to like nudge selected things around. Although think that did something weird to my frames down here. Yes, it did. Don't do that because it just adds new frames. Okay. I'm not sure why that happened. I'll have to look into that. So I've nudged things around before without making new frames. So animate again. The nose now looks more correct. The fluffy cheeks are pretty good. The head, I feel like the head on the original side view is a little too circular, perhaps. But I'll fix that on the side. No, I don't like this. Oh, and she's up. Alrighty, well that's it for today. I will see you next time my toddler takes a nap. Bye.